Hey folks, I am back from my research trip and I have so many interesting things to share with you. A reminder for my paid subscribers. This Thursday, November 13th, is the next Ask Me Anything About Italy. It's happening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Zoom. And if you can't make it, just send me an email with your question. I'll answer it live, and then you can rewatch the replay the following morning. Then on November 20th, I'll be premiering the next destination deep dive, and it's going to be about Rome. I just spent 5 days in Rome to research this deep dive, and here's how it works. If you're a paid subscriber, you're invited to the live premiere on Zoom, and it's available to paid subscribers until I polish a final version that will then be available for sale, along with a complete itinerary and bonus resources. Now, the idea behind these destination deep dives is that independent travelers can get all the good advice they need in one resource. I make the decisions for you, and I get rid of that nagging feeling that you're not picking the right things to do and eat. I am brutally honest. That's why you like me. And you save a ton of time sifting through social media, trying to figure out what's legit and what is tourist trap nonsense. So to subscribe, go to danielleoteri.com. And since this is the calm before the storm of trip planning season, listen at the end of this episode for a description of how my trip planning services work. So, last Sunday, I was wandering around Ostia Antica, and I was desperately searching for the restroom, but not the modern one, which is located right next to the entrance of the archaeological park, very easy to find. But I was looking for the ancient one, where Romans would take care of their essential business sitting um, cheek to cheek. Now, the communal toilets are one of the most famous things at Ostia, but they aren't marked on the map or any of the signage, which I think is very frustrating. And I knew that they were part of the bath complex that was adjacent to the forum of this ancient city. Today, the ancient city of Ostia, the archaeological park, is located very close to the airport. But 2,000 years ago, it was also an industrial hub where goods came in and out due to its strategic position where the Tiber River meets the sea. It is still very close to the mouth of the Tiber, but the land has changed since then. And the experience of Ostia is very similar to Pompeii. But Ostia wasn't buried by a volcanic eruption. Instead, it sank into the silt and it turned into a swamp that was fiercely guarded by malaria-carrying mosquitoes and not reclaimed until the 1900s. So today, it's a very well-tended but little-visited archaeological park. It's very easy to reach from the center of Rome and much easier to traverse than Pompeii. There are lots of spots to sit as well on ancient stone beneath these lush umbrella pines that stretch out their branches in all directions. They look like they all slept late and are just getting out of bed. And after winding my way through the forum baths, the gym, the hot room, the cold room, I found the famous toilets. The engineering is all exposed, including a channel where water would be constantly flowing to flush away the waste. The openings on the marble bench where people sat their little tushies down, they're about as close as the indents on the New York City subway, which is to say close. And being shocked at this lack of privacy is not something that most people throughout most of human history would have even noticed. Because today we are awash in privacy and convenience. And we take most of it entirely for granted. And while the pleasures of indoor plumbing, kitchens, washing machines, and air conditioning eliminate so many drudgerous things, these conveniences have also fundamentally reshaped our society. The more privacy we enjoy, the less we need the public square and also each other. Now, I usually discourage people from taking a day trip to Pompeii from Rome in favor of a much easier trip to Ostia Antica. And yes, it is possible to go to Pompeii on the fast train, and there are lots of bus tours offering this, but it's a very long and expensive day just getting there and back. And then you have, what is necessarily a swift and fairly shallow experience of Pompeii, which is a place that deserves a very good long visit. But Ostia offers the same experience. It allows you to walk through a Roman city along the same roads as everyday citizens of the past. You walk into their homes, their shops, and their public buildings. Also, it is so peaceful. It's extremely easy to get there from the center of Rome. It only costs like $3.50. And you take the very, very pleasant and clean Metro Mare train. But really, only the most interested travelers go there, and you will find school groups as well. But you can really take your time gazing at the mosaics in particular. There are mosaics from another bath complex with these beautiful seahorses and the gods of the sea in black and white mosaic tile. You can explore the Thermopolium, which was a sort of typical Roman fast food or quick service restaurant. There's a theater, there's a district of warehouses, because this was also a port town in the ancient world, and where the work of shipping across the entire Roman Empire was done. And there is also the oldest known synagogue in Europe at Ostia. Now, just outside the archaeological park is a castle, and then a cobblestoned district of restaurants where you can eat very well. In fact, a lot of movies are filmed in this part of Rome because it looks like the center of Rome used to look like in the 1950s. They filmed scenes from Emily in Paris and the most recent version of Ripley there. There's one restaurant in particular that I love, Arianna al Borghetto. But also, you could take a quick taxi ride or just go one more stop on the train and you're at the beach. And there you can enjoy a perfect dish of spaghetti and clams. Ostia Antica was diverse, as most Roman cities were. As armies conquered lands across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, slaves were captured during these wars and brought back to the Roman capital as war booty and put to work. And then there were also the indigenous people who had founded cities, including Pompeii, before the Romans conquered them. And they continued to speak their own languages and imparted many of their own customs to the Romans, which have been passed down to us today, but often without the appropriate label. Life in a Roman city like Ostia was extremely public. Homes weren't much more than places to sleep, and the baths were places to work out, to get clean, and most of all, to socialize. And you would find all levels of society at the baths. And everyone, even the wealthy, would eat at many of the fast food restaurants that you find in every Roman city. Now, studies by bioarchaeologists who have done scrapings from Roman sewers, yeah, we're going back to the toilet stuff again, they have discovered that all Romans, regardless of social class, ate pretty much the same thing: fish, grains, and meats. And the primary differences were the settings in which meals were served. Most people did not have a kitchen, but wealthy people would, and they would also, most importantly, have enslaved people, a staff, to take care of everything for them. But everybody had to go outside to the public fountains to get their drinking water. Everyone in a Roman city had to do their laundry, and so they would take their clothes and their blankets to storefront laundries. The Forum was always in the center of the city, with all the administrative bodies in place, as well as a large communal piazza where people could gather. Now, only the wealthy people, as I said, enjoyed some privacy, albeit minimal by our standards today. And walking around Ostia or Pompeii, you will notice that wealthy homes are tucked right into the urban grid next to modest or even very poor homes, quarters really, where enslaved people resided. The larger villas were situated on the periphery of the city, and they offered sea views, or maybe they were surrounded by orchards or woods. But access to the city was really important. So even at a massive villa like Villa Aplantis, which is close to Pompeii, it belonged to somebody of the highest imperial class. You'll see a series of guest rooms that orbit the infinity pool, and they're pretty small. And they indicate that they were really just for sleeping. And most of the time in the villa would be in the company of everyone else who lived there. And there was also a warehouse, a working warehouse directly next to it, because your industriousness was a prime virtue in Roman society. Now, I want to introduce an idea that I was contemplating while wandering around Ostia. Jonathan Haidt, who is the author of The Anxious Generation and a huge advocate for removing cell phones from the lives of kids today, He frequently cites the research of Robert Putnam, who demonstrated that there was a major turning point in American culture during the 1990s. This is a time when people really become distrustful of their neighbors. And the reason was air conditioning. Prior to the 1990s, few households had more than maybe one air conditioner in a window that they would use on the hottest days. I know for sure growing up in the 80s, my parents had one in their bedroom, and if it was really hot in August, me and my brother would sleep on the floor of their bedroom. So we all just spent far more time outside with our neighbors, running around from house to house, sitting on the porch, sitting on the deck, having block parties. And Putnam describes how television and cars in the 1950s did a lot to reduce community engagement, and then air conditioning really was the final blow in the 1990s. A few days earlier, I was in Pompeii, and I overheard a tour guide explaining why there were so many bath complexes among the ruins. And the American guests thought it was odd. They thought, well, why are so many people indulging in a spa experience? And she explained it wasn't the same thing as going to a luxurious spa. It's that Roman homes, except for the most luxurious ones, did not have bathrooms, did not have kitchens, and that nothing about their daily life was private. If you were very rich and you had a lot of slaves to go fetch things for you from the city, he went on to say, then maybe you might have a house that's closer to the sea. And the guest responded by telling the guide how he had recently bought a house in Florida. I mean, I guess this guy was trying to relate to history as it was being explained to him, but he kind of missed the mark. The tour guide just kind of nodded along politely. But here's the thing. Now, there are many wildly inaccurate stereotypes about the Italian dolce vita, but one thing that really stands is the fact that Italy does have a much tighter social fabric, at least compared to life in North America. I remember going to a movie theater in Florence on like a Tuesday night, and there was nobody there. And me and my friend, we chose seats in the empty theater. And then maybe tops 20 other people trickled in, and they all sat immediately next to us. And we were like, what is going on? Why are they sitting right next to us? And I thought it was odd until, of course, I realized it was my American instinct to spread out away from the others. Now, if you look at a Roman city or an Italian village clustered on a hilltop, you will see that social cohesion requires proximity. And, Italy is still light on air conditioning. Now, HVAC units are becoming much more energy efficient, and European summers are getting hotter and hotter every year. So, air conditioning is becoming much more widely adopted in Italy, but I worry, will this erase piazza culture? The lesson is that social cohesion thrives when life is less convenient. The Roman Empire still fell. There were still terrible wars and despots and dictators, but I believe the underpinning of the Italian way of life is rooted in communal experiences. You see these communal bread ovens still in small villages. The trattorias serve local dishes, and even if they seem repetitive, which I hear sometimes travelers complain about, those dishes are anchors. And when you visit Italy, I really encourage you to try to eat the most local things possible. And I flinch when I see prices rising because I know that young Italians really enjoy a level of sociability that is so much better than in the US. And it's because a spritz and pizza are generally inexpensive, and you can always afford that a night out with your friends. Walking around a city like Ostia Antica is an opportunity to think about daily life, then and now, not just the wars and the conquests of history. And I get something different every time I visit an archaeological site. This time, I'm contemplating how convenience should not always be a top priority. And for people who want a deeper experience of Italy, maybe consider sacrificing a bit of comfort sometimes. And that just means going off the beaten path in order to experience the power of connection. I am getting lots of emails about trip planning for 2026, and so I would like to share my refreshed menu of services. And though I have a special love for Southern Italy, my business partner Ariana and I have a fantastic network of guides all over Italy. And we have great guides in the most famous places who can show you different corners or make the experience of the crowded places just much better. And then we have lots of guides in the lesser known places as well. The most affordable option is to subscribe to this podcast. And you can do that over Substack, danielleoteri.com. And then you can join in on the monthly Q&As, which happen over Zoom. And it's just $8 a month or $80 a year. And believe me, it means a lot to me, and it also really helps me continue to publish this podcast. Now, if you want a 1-hour session one-on-one with me to discuss your interest, answer questions, you want expert recommendations, you can book a trip consultation. You can do that on my website, danielleoteri-italy.com. I don't put a limit on how many recommendations I offer. I just really make sure that you have what you need based on the questions that I ask in our discussions. Now, people are often worried that they won't get all of their questions answered in an hour, but trust me, all of the questions that have you jammed up are what I do all day long. So you'll probably be shocked by how much we can accomplish in an hour. Then is a new service that I'm calling Custom Itinerary Design. This is a personalized planning service for travelers who want a thoughtfully curated trip crafted just for them. It begins with a 45-minute Zoom call to discuss your ideal itinerary, your travel style, your budget, and the timing. And then from there, we design a customized day-by-day plan that reflects your pace, your interests, and your priorities. And we put this all in beautiful professional itinerary software. Now, every itinerary also includes restaurant suggestions, optional experiences, curated recommendations, all delivered through our custom mobile app for easy on-the-go access. So once the first draft is ready, you'll receive an email for review. If it feels right, we'll share direct booking links so that you can go ahead and book the hotels and book the tours that we recommend. And if you prefer private tours over small group tours, then we can also book expert local guides from our personal network and invoice you for those services a la carte. After your bookings are complete, we'll meet again for a 45-minute follow-up call to finalize details, review daily logistics, and answer any last-minute questions. And the result is a seamless, personalized itinerary that leaves room for discovery while keeping every day of your trip beautifully organized. And then finally, we offer bespoke trip planning. Now, for this, we charge a fee to cover our time, which will be quoted to you once I know more about your trip. Depends on how many people are going, how many days you're going to be traveling. This all-inclusive service is where we design and book everything. So we start with a call to figure out what you want to do and see, what you want to spend. We design a first draft of the itinerary. Once it gets to where you want it to be, we will then do a precise price quote. I will then take one payment from you and then pay out all of the vendors from our European bank account on your behalf. All the guides, all the drivers, all of that stuff in the background. I handle all the converting and vendors. And then my business partner, Ariana, provides on-the-ground support throughout your trip. So you have peace of mind from start to finish. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I've got lots of cool episodes, some nerdy, geeky stuff to share with you coming up. I'll see you next time.